past few days, I've moved through life like a zombie. I finished a handful of easy jobs, well aware that other contract workers whispered to each other when they assumed I wasn't looking. August and April were busy with other tasks, so I had no one willing to work with me. At least the jobs were mostly harmless. Dr. Philo rewrapped my bad leg, warning how it should be replaced soon. He poked around, asking about my personal life. I gave him one-word answers, feeling far too exhausted to get into details. Out of the blue, August called, asking if I could go over to his place. He said he wanted to go on a short trip with me and that I should wear warm clothing. I should have refused, so he wouldn't have to deal with my bad mood. He threatened to drag me out of bed if I didn't come over. Since I didn't have much of a choice, I got dressed, feeling slightly lightheaded. He took one look at me and decided to make breakfast. I'd been showering, so I didn't think I looked as bad as I felt. He forced me to sit down at the kitchen table while he fried some eggs. August had learned how to make some very simple dishes. He set the plate in front of me and then got started putting together some lunch. I could only have a few bites of eggs with toast before my stomach started to hurt. I rested my head on the table, wanting to just roll over and die. "What's gotten you so moody?" August finally asked. "I got dumped," I said, realizing he was the first person I'd told. He stopped working and wiped his hands on a tablecloth. He walked over behind my chair to lean down, hugging my shoulders. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," he said, sounding like a father comforting a heartbroken teenage daughter. I barely made an effort to shrug him away. I knew he wanted to make me feel better, but it didn't help. I felt him press his face against the side of my head, making slurping sounds. "What are you doing?" I asked, too tired to push him away. "Eating your brains," he answered, pausing in his efforts. Not much in here." I finally pushed him aside. He laughed at his own joke and then got a cup of coffee. He set it in front of me and got back to work on making lunches. "Ito's an agent. He could die at any moment while working. He must have broken it off between you two before he got too attached," August said as I nodded along. I understood that. The facts didn't stop me from being depressed. I knew in the long run it would be better for both of us. "Did you have a partner that passed away?" August commented over his shoulder. My stomach tightened. I didn't like talking about her or what had happened. The fact I'd worked with someone else 2 years ago wasn't hard information to find, even though I rarely talked about it. "I heard you were injured, but you took some time off because her death was hard on you? How would you react if something happened to Ito? You're hurting now, but it was his choice to not cause more pain in the future. I'm aware of that. It's just..." I started to speak and paused to take a sip of coffee. No, that wasn't coffee. I don't know what that was. A taste I couldn't describe hit me like a truck, as I saw a swirl of strange colors. I coughed, spitting out the foul liquid. "I don't know how to make coffee," August admitted, with a smile that looked more like a grimace. He reminded me of a dog that got caught doing something it shouldn't. He went to dump the mug out, but I told him to save it and give it to the corporation as some sort of biological weapon. I realize it'll be painful to lose him. I think it would be worth it, though," I said after I'd recovered. Whatever he put in that mug cleared my brain enough to collect my thoughts for the first time in a while. "You might be strong enough, but is Ito? Are you going to force him into something he's not emotionally ready for?" he pointed out. I leaned back in my chair, feeling so stupid I didn't consider that. With a long sigh, I scrubbed my face against my palms in frustration. August finished putting our lunches together and handed over a bag of food. He was ready to go, and wanted to be done dealing with my personal life. "You should send him a message. Explain that you can handle the pain of losing him. but make it clear you'll accept the fact he may not do the same. The worst thing you could do is pressure him into something he doesn't want to make you happy. This might be Ito's first relationship. So far, I think you two are doing just fine. I felt like a fog temporarily cleared from my mind. I'd been moping around for so long, it kept me from actually thinking properly. "You're a good dad," I said to him. We stopped by the door to get our jackets on. August paused as if I had said something wrong. "Speaking of which, where's Lucas?" I asked, looking for a pair of small shoes near the door. "He's with his relatives today." He refused to elaborate. I decided not to press the matter. I'd been too focused on my own issues, I hadn't been paying attention to his. He hadn't told me much about what was going on with him and Lucas. As far as I knew, he still had him on the weekends, and had been working hard on changing that. I suddenly felt like a bad friend. Sure, August would gladly eat me if I died, but at least he was willing to wait. I should really start treating him better. August created a doorway to a new location. It was cold, but manageable. I stepped out into some light snow, tightening my jacket. I didn't bring gloves, which August noticed. He pulled out a pair and helped me put them on as his dad reflexes kicked in. I let him, but flinched when my bruised fingers bent. I knew Dr. Philo had access to magic bandages that healed faster. However, the broken bones recovered sooner than I expected. "We need to get up the side of the mountain. You'll be too slow. I need to carry you," he explained. I frowned, glancing around to look for any witnesses. We were on a snowy slope with patches of trees. In front of us was a sparkling mountain with the wind starting to pick up. He was right. I would never be able to walk up there without help. He got on one knee so I could climb on his back. August easily took off, running through the snow or jumping between the trees. The cool breeze felt nice on my face. This place had pure, clean air that was perfect for supernatural creatures. We'd only been here for a short while, but August seemed to be recovering some of his internal magic source. As we moved, I saw glimpses of some buildings through the trees. Normally humans didn't live in magic-rich places like this. It attracted many dangerous creatures. I couldn't get a clear look at how many buildings there were in the distance, or what kind they were. It only took us 10 minutes to get halfway up the mountain. I found it slightly hard to breathe, but it was manageable. August wasn't wearing shoes, which helped him jump between small ledges. His clawed hands jabbed into the rocks, climbing as if he had done this 100 times before. We entered a narrow opening to see a small cave, glowing blue with an unknown light source. So far, August hadn't told me the reason why we were here. He went over to the back wall of the cave, placing a clawed hand on the smooth rock. Delicate, odd symbols appeared across the rocks, creating an outline of a door. He nodded and walked forward, sinking into the stone. I followed behind, unsure of what to expect. I nearly walked off a small platform. A set of spiral stairs curved along the wall, so far down I couldn't see the bottom. Along the walls were carved out holes in the rock, covered with black fabric. Before I could ask what this place was, August picked me up, so we could take the fastest way down. If I wasn't so shocked, I would have screamed. I swear we fell for a full 5 minutes. We slowed before hitting the ground and gently landed. August needed to hold me up because my knees refused to stop shaking. He smiled, amused with himself. When I could walk again, he brought me over to a black-covered shape. Carefully, he lifted the dusty fabric to show what was hidden underneath. The beauty of it took my breath away. A crystallized figure rested against a rock, as if they had simply fallen asleep. They had the same claws and insect features August did. The long hair shimmered like silver spider webs. A set of 4 delicate, dragonfly-like wings were tucked against their body. There was no internal magic source. This creature had passed away a long time ago. "This is my great-grandmother," August explained. I looked around, realizing that this place was filled with more bodies like this one. "I heard you're in debt." I turned my head back towards August. I understood why he would ask such a question, but I was still confused about why we'd come here. Bodies of powerful, supernatural creatures were in high demand. Even after their internal magic gets used up, their flesh and bones can still be used in spells, or formed into weapons. If August sold a pure body like this one, I could pay off my debt 10 times over. "This is your family. You shouldn't have even brought me here. What's going on?" He didn't show any signs of distress, no matter how hard I looked. "I have a dangerous job. If I die, I want to have someone I can trust with all this until April is ready. But if possible, I never want to burden her with this. His grave is only a rumor at the moment. If anyone found out it was real, you can imagine how much trouble it would cause the person protecting it." I looked around again, understanding his point. Most people would see these bodies as raw materials. The amount of sheer power that could be produced was hard to imagine. If one person used all of this for their gain, they might be able to take over the world 100 times over. People have killed for a fraction of this kind of magic. I'm the only one who can open the door. If I die without giving someone access here, it'll be sealed forever. Wouldn't the right automatically be passed to April? I wondered out loud. We don't share fathers. That made sense. I hadn't been thinking properly lately. They were half-siblings, but not once did he treat her any differently. Even though this grave belonged to his species, he loved his sister so much that he didn't want to burden her with it. "Are you sure you can trust me? I mean, I could turn around and sell even 10 of your dead family members and solve all my problems." I gestured around us. "What do you think would happen if the corporation got a hold of even half these bodies?" he pressed. I stopped to think for a moment. It didn't take very long to figure out how terrible of an outcome that would be. They might be able to completely control a few worlds worth of supernatural creatures. I don't know how I feel about that. I hate how often agents die to protect humans. If they had this power, I know they would start killing off creatures that need to feed on humans to live. People like you would be slaughtered. They've always said they simply want to protect the balance between creatures and humans, but I feel like they love humans too much. It's complicated. I don't have the answers. I wouldn't be comfortable giving anyone access to any of this. Even with good intentions, it would just lead to problems. I've seen both sides suffer. People much smarter than myself had thought their entire lives about how monsters and humans could live together. From my experience, letting one side have power over the other did not solve anything. Have you talked to April about all this? Wouldn't she be upset that you gave this responsibility to me? I asked him, wondering what her opinion was on all this. She's always known about the graves, but she doesn't fully understand how much potential is sealed away here. I asked her what she would do with one body of a crystallized relative, and he trailed off for a second, as if reliving a traumatic event. April said she would eat it, get really big and stomp through a city like Godzilla. Yeah, she couldn't be trusted with this. I held out my hand, showing him I was ready to accept the heavy burden of keeping this grave hidden. The process was simple. He cut part of his palm, then let the blood flow into my cupped hands. It fell into my skin, leaving no traces behind. It was a bit strange that August took me here out of the blue. There was something about him that felt a bit off, but I couldn't figure out what. This was similar to a friend suddenly making a will. Of course, I would think something might be wrong. Once we were done, I needed to climb back onto his back, so he could quickly get us up to the door. August was skilled at climbing, even with the extra weight. Since I'd spent time with him on jobs he wasn't suited for, I didn't realize just how strong he could be. We still needed to get back down the mountain after leaving the tomb. The fastest way would be to create a door. August didn't mention any other reason why he wanted to come here, so I assumed he would head back home. Instead, he took a running start, jumping off the side of the ledge to get down the mountain the second fastest way. My stomach lifted into my throat as we started to free fall. For a second, before the fear took over, I was able to take in the beauty of the area. The sparkling, snow-covered slope dotted with trees made me realize why his family members wanted to fight to stay here. Even sturdy supernatural creatures would have been harmed falling from such a height. August knew what he was doing. He used his power to slow our fall before we hit the ground, in such a gentle way that I didn't even notice the decrease in speed until we safely landed. It was a very impressive display of control that most people would not have been able to do. I still felt sick from the fall, and once his feet touched the ground, I climbed off his back and fell backwards into the snow. Our lunch bag landed next to me. I reached for it, but gave up, laying with my arms sprawled out and my eyes closed, embracing the cold on my back. I did think I was going to die when he jumped. My stomach had yet to settle, but for some odd reason, I felt more relaxed than I had for weeks. The pain in my bad leg felt so faint it might as well have not been there. "Richie, are you alright?" August asked in a heavy tone. I didn't open my eyes and just nodded. "I don't do well with heights," I admitted. "That's not what I meant," he responded. Glancing up at him, I thought back to everything that had happened recently. It felt like I'd been rotting from the inside, and just did my best to ignore it. Anytime something happened, I risked falling apart. I realized that I'd felt like this since I lost my partner. I tried to pretend I was fine and attempted a normal life, and when that didn't work out, I went back to contract work that put me in danger. Broken bones, near-death experiences, and being scared to death felt right. If the person I cared about the most died because I was weak, why should I have a comfortable life? Was I all right? No. "Yeah, I'm fine," I lied. "What about you? Feels like something's going on you're not telling me about." I sat up and brushed the snow from my jacket. It warmed up a little since we'd gotten there. Still, I would kill for a hot coffee at that moment. "Do you want to see the tree I was born under? We landed near it," he said, refusing to answer my question. Without waiting, he started walking through the trees, heading towards a large pine standing near a clearing. He stopped in front of it to pat the bark. He looked like a person who had just found an old childhood toy. "It's a nice-looking tree. Can we get back to my question?" I pressed after I caught up with him. "My species lays an egg under the ground. When I hatched, I had to dig up through the roots. I didn't even have a human body for the first 10 years, he said, then paused for a moment, almost deep in thought. "Richmond, I could tell you what's been bothering me, but you wouldn't understand it. I'm not the same as you." We stood a few feet from each other, a cold wind blowing between us. He was right. I would never fully understand what pain he's gone through. I'm human, and he's not. Our lives are very different, but I could still support him if he was going through a hard time. Right now, he was acting like an older brother. He wanted to act like a bad guy, to create distance between us so he wouldn't burden me with his issues. I didn't fully open up to him, so how could I be upset he refused as well? "Is this about Lucas?" I asked carefully, well aware that if I said the wrong thing at the wrong moment, I would ruin our friendship. I thought he would just dodge any topics he didn't want to address. When his hands turned into claws and August darted forward, ready to rip apart flesh, I was too stunned to react. Warm blood splashed against my back after the attack. Slowly, I turned around to see a body bleeding out on the ground. More figures appeared in the trees. I was confused about how they'd gotten so close. I should have sensed a supernatural threat sooner. They all looked somewhat normal. They were dressed in warm clothing with heavy gloves and reflective goggles, while others simply wore sweaters. Any exposed skin was red from the cold, and some looked like they had frostbite starting at their fingertips. Each held a weapon that looked like just random objects they found. Some with knives, others with large sticks. They weren't a threat to August, but I would have trouble with these numbers. The crowd moved in a zombified state, and yet I couldn't see any traces of a spell controlling them. This was odd. I didn't understand what was going on. Another person darted forward in a weak attack. I easily stepped aside, and then watched in horror as August swiftly sliced through the woman's neck. On reflex, I caught her trying to help, but she was dead within seconds. "August, they're human, stop!" I told him, frantic. We needed to think things through before acting. He was bound by a collar. If he killed humans without a good reason, the corporation would punish him. 2 days ago, all the humans at the ski lodge nearby disappeared. They assumed April or I were involved with whoever caused the trouble, as revenge for our home being taken away. August explained, but refused to look in my direction. "Richmond, leave. I'll take care of things here." I carefully placed the body of the poor woman we were unable to save on the ground. Her blood had seeped into my clothing, and the cold air was already starting to freeze it. If I do that, they won't listen to anything I say. I know you're not working with the person behind all this. If you live through confronting the one who did this, you'll be killed by the corporation, I sternly said. He moved again, far too quickly to stop. Another slash of his claws came down, killing an easy target. Fresh blood dripped from his fingers, with his back facing me. "That's the plan." His voice was steady, and it chilled me more than the wind. "Like hell to that. You need to stay alive for Lucas." I scolded him as if he were a child. I was so focused on him, I didn't notice someone heading my way with a knife in hand. August did. He lashed out, taking them down, but didn't stop there. I was unable to stop him from killing 3 more people. He paused to take a deep breath, his emotions finally breaking. "Lucas won't be coming back home. He's human. I'm not. They decided his biological family would raise him." He sounded so defeated at that moment. No wonder he'd given up. He couldn't handle losing his family again. He assumed April hated him because he didn't fight for their home. He knew she would be fine without him and decided to die, letting people assume it was for revenge. Sure, I had somewhat been acting the same way as him recently, but I refused to leave him here to die. "Come on, I'm taking you home," I told him, only to be ignored. He refused to listen, to just stay still. He simply kept digging his grave by killing others. I went to him, grabbing a hold of his arm and using all my strength to try to make him stop. He spun around, slamming his hand hard against a tree. We stood facing each other, specks of blood across his face, half hidden by his wavy hair. "Look at me," he demanded. "I'm a monster. Accept it." I had a bad habit of turning a blind eye to difficult things to make my life easier. I knew August wasn't human. I didn't know if I accepted what that truly meant, or didn't acknowledge his fault so we could become friends. Humans and monsters should not interact, No matter how much we love each other, it only causes pain. Isn't that the reason why Ito dumped you? He was trying to be cruel, just so I would leave. The words still hurt. Are you just gonna give up? Once you do, there's no turning back. I'm sure we can figure something out. I'll admit, my words sounded weak. A scowl came to his face as he started to snap. Oh, why didn't I think of that? I'll just try harder then. He hissed and turned to take his anger out on the half-frozen targets. It was sickening watching him rip people to pieces, unable to do anything about it. Pent-up anger came out as sloppy attacks. His human mask became more monstrous with each passing second. I've already worked so damn hard and nothing I do matters. Humans take away everything I care about, yet I still care about them. I can't have a family because I'm not like what I love no matter what I do. I can't change what I am. It's so damn frustrating. He paused to try and calm down, his chest heaving with heavy breaths. August gritted his teeth, holding down more rage that threatened to boil over. We both knew he was the best person to raise Lucas, but the higher-ups didn't see that. They only saw a monster around a defenseless human child, and assumed his biological family would be better. The people who didn't even look for Lucas when he went missing. They didn't care what happened to his parents. They only wanted him after they found out how much money he came with. August found the boy. He was Lucas's father the moment they saw each other. I looked away from him, trying to think what I could do. August would be in deep trouble if anyone found out he slaughtered humans he could have easily run from. Should I lie and say I was the one who killed them? And then what? How could we get his son back after dealing with the issue at hand? My chest hurt seeing the gore on the ground he'd created. Then something caught my eye, forcing me to focus on a cracked open skull. There was a glitter of magic, a small thread inside. It took some effort, but I saw more of those threads were woven inside the heads of all the people around us. That was how they were being controlled. They may be alive, but the threads had made them brain-dead puppets. Killing them had been a mercy. Did August already know that? A skilled supernatural doctor would notice the threads if they knew to look. So August was in the clear. I don't have the answers for you, but I'm not leaving you to die. Mostly because it might be too late now, I told August as I tensed up, waiting for the next threat to arrive. Unlike the human puppets around us, I sensed the new person heading our way. His power looked and felt the same as the magic that ran through the mountain. Even at a distance, I knew this threat was strong. Much stronger than August. He was on his home turf, but he hadn't had much time to recover since we arrived here. You humans always cause so much trouble, August muttered to himself, and turned towards the newcomer. Don't you agree, June? A person walked through the trees, stopping to admire the scene. He was tall and thin, wearing ripped, bloody clothing he'd stolen from a previous victim. The left side of his face had been completely scarred over. His long, wavy, dark hair reached down to his waist, swaying in the cool breeze. His skin appeared stretched over an oddly shaped skeletal structure, aside from his left arm. It was completely transformed into a shiny, black-clawed hand, with joints similar to a doll. Clearly he had been the survivor of the attack that wiped out his entire village. He waited until he was strong enough to take back the mountain, but also to lure in August. I doubted June would be on friendly terms with his surviving family members after they'd sided with humans. You were kind to me when we were younger. I won't kill you right away. I'll give you a few moments with your little vermin, June said, his voice deep and damaged. I stood firm, getting ready for what we would need to deal with. Glancing between June and August, I knew we were in a bit of trouble. The best course of action was to run and get help, if that was even possible. internal magic is low. His isn't. From the look of things, he has 3 times as much magic as you. I explained, as if August didn't already know all that. I shuffled closer to him, watching June, expecting him to attack at any moment. You have good senses. It might help us out. I'll create a door, hold him off, and you can open the connection to get away when you see an opening. We were nearly touching shoulders. I carefully looked around, trying not to be noticed. At some point, June had taken control of the magic flowing through the ground and trees around us. That sucked. It would block us from creating a doorway out. He blocked us. No doors. We're stuck, I whispered, trying not to be overheard. How do you know that? August raised an eyebrow. I can see it, I answered, and a longer silence came between us than I expected. August stared at me as if I was crazy. Couldn't all supernatural creatures see magic? It suddenly dawned on me that my eyesight was better than most. If every creature could see exactly what they were dealing with and how much power each other held, the world would be so much different. Sure, I realized I had a useful skill, but clearly seeing what kind of threat we faced didn't solve our problem. The monster in front of us was still gonna rip us apart. He only hadn't yet, just to amuse himself. Are you two finished chatting? June's voice made us tense up. We did not have a plan. I've lived through bigger threats before. Maybe I would figure something out in the next few seconds. Cracks appeared in June's flesh. His chest puffed out as cracking sounds echoed around it. His body started to become deformed. With an awful ripping sound, the flesh covering his ribcage split open, revealing a large vertical mouth with dripping teeth. He kept pulling power out of the ground. Small, glittering cracks formed across his face. He grew larger and larger, hunching over and appearing more like a beast than a human. The foul magic coming off of him made my stomach churn. Simply being nearby made my legs tremble. Pure hatred fueled him so intensely that I didn't know how he was keeping his deformed body together. Again, I looked around for anything useful. I doubted the small knives and sharp sticks the human puppets brought along would do anything. My eyes landed on a woman with her throat slit, and deep red blood staining her light brown hair. My vision started to go gray at the edges. For a moment, I saw my dead partner's face, and nearly lost myself in that terrible memory. This situation felt the same as the one back then. Utterly hopeless, facing a monster we had no chance against. By some miracle, I'd lived. She didn't. I saw her lifeless body, but it was never found. Most likely consumed by the creature who attacked us. While I was distracted, June attacked. Before I could even blink, he was in front of me, his large, clawed hand curled into a powerful blow. I raised my right arm, grabbing whatever magic I could from the ground to soften the blow. I was knocked back a few feet, the bones in my arm shattering. August appeared to move in slow motion, compared to the monster before us. He dodged an attack that would have ripped out his throat, but was struck 3 times in the stomach and chest so hard blood came from his mouth. He was knocked back, landing hard on the ground next to me. No matter how hard I tried to think of a plan, the horrible truth became crystal clear. We were fucked. The best course of action was to remain calm. That was extremely difficult, staring down a monster without any weapons on hand. My broken arm throbbed, and I found it hard to stand with my bad leg trembling. August stood up on uneven feet, spitting out blood. His eyes made contact with mine, giving a silent signal he had some sort of plan. I just needed to trust him. He had been taking in magic, trying to recover his wounds. Something was wrong. The flow looked fine, and yet he kept stopping before he had enough. June wasn't holding the power back or taking it from him. So why wasn't August able to go beyond a certain amount? Care to humor us with a villain monologue? August joked, causing June to pause. The monster narrowed his good eye at us, his mouth curling into a cruel smile. I don't mind prolonging your suffering, he rasped, making it clear he could kill us at any moment. You did me a favor, giving that human permission to open our ancestor's grave. June's glare was directed toward me. August swiftly stepped in front, ready to defend his weaker friend. I would kill Richmond before you could make him into your puppet, August replied in a cold voice. I knew he was serious, and I would prefer that outcome. August couldn't be affected. It explained why June waited so long to lure August here, if his main goal was to get inside the tomb. He doesn't need to be alive to open the door, June pointed out. His deep, rolling laughter froze my blood. August had just wanted to protect his sister from such a heavy burden by giving it to me. Now, we risked the wrong person getting a hold of a great deal of power. Is that collar giving you issues? The choice you made to protect poor little April is going to be this world's downfall, June hissed, then cackled. August had made a deal. Him and April would become leashed in exchange for their lives. That came at a cost of his true strength. The collar limited how strong he could become, so he would be easier to control. An idea came to me, and I knew I needed to act on it quickly. First, we needed to get June distracted for at least an entire minute. With some luck, I may be able to buy us 30 seconds. As June kept speaking, I carefully started to gather as much magic as I could in my left hand, waiting for the right moment. Our species had enough power hidden away to save ourselves, but your father was too stubborn and refused. You both failed us, and look what we became. Barely holding on because of those disgusting humans. Your father always said he wanted to find an answer to our conflict, while ignoring the simplest solution. I refuse to be like him. I will take what has been rightfully left behind, to erase everything. A clean slate. No more humans, or creatures who refuse to answer our call for help. I wish I could blame June for feeling the way he did. I understand why he turned out this way, even though his pure hatred scared me to the bone. His voice echoed through the trees, yelling to make sure he got his point across. To me, he sounded like a misguided, hurt child. To August, he was an unacceptable threat. My friend moved before I could call out to him. June easily swatted him away with a massive, clawed hand. He slashed August across the chest, causing his blood to spray across the ground. He still got back up again and again. He had accepted his death the moment we arrived. Since he was a father, he refused to stand down when someone threatened his child. I couldn't bear to see him slowly be ripped apart. I put some strength into my legs to give a boost, so I could slam my left hand into June's chest, with everything I had. August had been knocked to the ground, bruised and bloody, watching in horror at my actions. He shouted something I didn't hear. The outburst of magic should have knocked June back. Instead, he stood strong, with new cracks forming on his face, with signs of something glittering under his skin. Oh, I was so stupid. A clawed hand shot out, digging 4 fingers into my stomach. I froze in shock, unable to react. If I moved, I would start bleeding out. June had been born here. He might as well be the same as all the plants and soil of this mountain. The magic I used was also a part of him. His body took it in without any issue, making him stronger. And I was on the verge of death because of it. You look so scared, dear little August. Don't worry, I'll keep you alive. I plan on creating a new village of our species, after I destroy everything else. I'll need your help with that. April is only a half-breed, but she'll be fine for the pair of us to... He wasn't able to finish his taunts. I lashed out, sinking a small knife I picked up earlier, deep in the open mouth of his chest. It hurt him enough to fling my body off his claws. I didn't have enough time to recover. I hit the ground hard and looked up in time to see a massive burst of white light about to crash into me. Even if this blast didn't hit me, I would have died in a few minutes from my stomach wounds. August should have fled to save himself. Acting like a true older brother, he wrapped his arms around my shoulders, his back facing the blast to use his body as a shield. He could have just blocked the magic, but he pulled it towards his back to limit the damage to a small area behind him. He hadn't just been protecting an injured human. Due to his sacrifice, he kept a tree a few feet away, untouched. It was a smaller pine that grew slightly crooked, reminding me of who had been born underneath it. Even now, he was protecting his little sister. His dress shirt had been burned away, as well as a layer of flesh, to reveal his jet-black insect body underneath. His breathing was low and uneven. Dark hair fell over his still human face, hiding his expression. August caught my eye, then glanced to the side, trying to silently tell me something important. His movements had been carefully planned out since June started speaking. Without anyone noticing, he drew a large square in the snow with his blood. It was a bit messy, but would work for what he had planned. His hand reached out to give my chest a gentle push. At the same time, he opened the connection. Doorways or portals made with blood and other offerings were far more powerful than normal spells. August had even included the bodies of the humans he had killed to provide power for this. I didn't know where it would take me, but I knew we only had a few seconds before June reached the edge of the blood to destroy the only way out. If I fell through the escape August had made, then the world would be saved. I could get help and stop June at the cost of a friend. He was perfectly fine throwing away his life for the people he cared about. I wasn't. Digging in my heels, I leaned forward, my broken arm stretched out. Gritting my teeth, I did something that would hurt us both. A lot. June was focused on severing the connection, meaning we had a few seconds before he could attack again. August had been born here as well. He should be able to take in magic to recover the same way June had. I pulled as much as I could through the ground, and into my left hand holding his. I'd never moved so much magic before. My brain shut down. I couldn't even breathe through the pain, and yet I pressed on. August was at his limit. The power pressed against his body, causing him to scream and claw at his chest. I refused to let go, no matter how much he would hate me for this. His collar was nothing like April's. Hers was so simple and had been easy to alter. The collar around his neck was countless magic threads that looped in on themselves. I couldn't find the end because there wasn't one. The power I would need to break the spell work was immense. Maybe if I shifted the entire mountain's worth of magic, I could have erased the tattoo. My body would have been burned up way before I grabbed that much power. No. I decided to do something else to it. I needed to change the tattoo to something else that could be broken, thus breaking the spell. I didn't think that was possible by sheer willpower. Normally, spells needed to be altered using writing, or a complex system most weren't aware of. I didn't have the time. I just brute forced it. Before August was torn apart from too much magic, the black tattoo around his neck lifted, transforming into a thin black string. It was easy to snap. When an item embedded with a spell is destroyed, the spell is also broken. If a paper charm is ripped, the spell is lost. August had part of his body taken over by the collar. He would have needed to die for it to be broken. When the collar took a different shape, it was possible to break it and not him. That came at a cost. The backlash knocked me off my feet. June was already closing in, but he was also knocked back when I broke the black thread. I could have been passed out for a few seconds or a full minute. I found myself on my back, staring up at the sky and confused for a moment where I was. The pain hadn't reached my senses yet. I knew I was cold, and I knew I should be doing something. My ears rang as I debated on just going to sleep. If I closed my eyes, everything would be over. Deep down, I wanted that, but I owed it to people I loved to sit back up. My movements were sluggish. I rolled slightly to use my right arm to sit up, forgetting I'd broken bones earlier. For some odd reason, my body wasn't working right. The collar breaking created a backlash so intense it took away more than my sense. Finally, I sat up, staring down and trying to see why my right hand refused to work. It simply wasn't there. My arm ended at the elbow in a burnt stump. Oddly enough, I wasn't upset. The shock settled in, keeping the pain away. It made sense that I would lose an arm for doing something so reckless as breaking a well-crafted collar spell. The blast also reopened the wounds in my stomach. How long did I have until I bled out? A few minutes? Even less? When I pulled my eyes away, reality sank in. Fear overtook my brain, as a throbbing pain came from every muscle. When I saw what stood in front of me, I knew the risk had been worth it. The last few pieces of August's old, black, shell-like body parts fell away, revealing a crystallized creature underneath. His hair shone silver, flowing as if he were underwater. Countless reflections of light sparked around him, even at the slightest of movements. His long legs hovered slightly as a pair of wings kept him afloat, with an unseen power. A steady river of magic flowed from the ground into his body, looking as if it would never fill up. This was different than June. He had wanted to destroy everything. The magic he took in turned vile from his hatred. He had been clawing at the ground, forcing the mountain to give him what he wanted. August sacrificed his family and nearly his life for his home. And now, he was finally paying him back. June fell back, terror clear on his scarred face. He knew he didn't have a chance, and yet he still struggled. He threw everything he had in the last few attacks. August finally moved. His clawed toes touched the ground with a faint crystal chime. The snow around us shot up, creating a field of powdered diamonds. Deep green grass sprouted and flowers bloomed. Within a blink of an eye, a patch of summer took over the small space. He moved so fast I didn't even see him. August stopped in front of June, slightly hovering over the swaying blooms, looking at his family member with large, pearl-like eyes. June seemed to relax, accepting his fate and almost appearing glad this was all finally over. He had been hurting for so long. The path he almost went down would have created more hardships and anger. At the very least, he seemed glad to see someone who he spent his childhood with in his last moments. A hand was placed on the side of his face. A gentle movement that was too much for his body. Thousands of cracks appeared. Then June was overtaken by the sheer force of the place he wanted to destroy. His body exploded into thousands of sharp pieces. When they embedded themselves into trees or the ground, more plants sprang to life from them. I felt a weird sensation on my face and in my chest. Two of those shards had hit me. A flower burst to life, spreading out from under my skin and covering my left eye. I felt roots buried deep inside my lung and rapidly spread outwards. Based on how fast they were spreading, I had seconds left. Turns out, I wouldn't bleed to death. August noticed me sitting on the ground, about to pass out from pain. He no longer looked like himself. The will of the mountain had taken over his body. There was a chance he would remain here, like a god protecting this place. Was that a bad thing? My brain couldn't think anymore. I started to drift off when August appeared next to me, his hand outstretched. I had been so afraid of death countless times, and yet, when I was this close to it, I was just too tired to care. Richie? My eyes closed, refusing to open. I still heard his voice. I knew this wasn't a hallucination, that I needed to hold on for one more second. His hand pressed against my chest. My breathing stopped. Then there was nothing for a very long time. How many times had I cheated death in my short life? More than any person should. I became aware of my breathing first. Then the dull pain came back. My head pounded and I felt so stiff. All of that didn't matter because I had to pee. I rolled, falling to the floor. My legs refused to work right. It took ages for me to reach the connected bathroom to finish my business. Once that was done, I washed my face. I needed to see the damage. The first thing I noticed was a new right arm. It was scarred where the old one and the new one were connected. It didn't look like my old one, and it felt strange. I'm not sure how I knew how to flex it, in a way to make it transform into a black plated arm with the dark claws. It just worked. I could only hold it in that form for a few seconds. My body shut down as I gasped, feeling like I ran 10 miles on top of not eating or drinking for 10 years. My body felt so drained in ways I never realized someone could feel. This must be what it's like for a supernatural creature when they run out of magic. It sucked. A lot. I drank from the tap for a full minute before looking at myself in the mirror. I looked awful. I needed a haircut. The bags under my eyes made the rest of my face appear pale. A new set of scars were under my left eye. It looked like someone had taken a small knife tip to make scratches in my skin, where the flowers ripped out from. My stomach appeared the same, but also with 3 round scars from where June landed a blow. But I was alive. I wasn't at a clinic, though. I knew I was in August's place, based on all the drawings Lucas made taped to the wall. I walked back into the bedroom, feeling downright awful. The door opened, and someone I didn't expect to see greeted me. "You look like crap," August said, after he gave me a look over. His skin was paler, but he looked fine. His internal magic source was perfect. And he lacked a black ring around his neck. A new streak of silver was in his hair that he loosely tied back. He looked so great, I felt a little bitter over it. "Thanks. I feel like crap," I said in a hoarse voice. "But really, thank you," I said, and lifted up the new right arm. I had been certain he had cut his off as a replacement, but he stood with both arms at his side. He realized I was confused and raised his right arm to pinch and stretch the skin. I made a crystal one and put fake skin over it. "Works just as good as the old one," he explained. I was glad it was so simple. I was still paying off my leg, so I knew how much replacement limbs could cost. "Do me a favor and don't do anything nasty with it," August said, grimacing. "We are never even going to think about that," I replied, shutting down that train of thought. I sighed and got us back on track. I wanted to know how I was still standing. Magic was, well, magic, but it still had rules. My body would have been overloaded if he tried to heal all my wounds at once. You should head to a clinic soon. I put you under a sleeping beauty spell. I'm not sure if all the roots were removed, August said, answering most of my questions. I had heard of that spell concept before. It was tricky to do, so it wasn't done unless there were no other options. It would freeze the injured person and slowly heal their wounds over time as they slept. When they woke up, depended on a few factors. Used too little magic, and they woke up before all the injuries were healed. Put in too much, and the person would keep sleeping even after they were fine. In some cases, a person slept for over 100 years. One wrong move, and August could have put me to sleep forever. How long was I out for? I asked. 60 years, he shrugged. When I didn't react to the joke, he admitted the real answer. 3 weeks. You're sturdy, so took way less time than I expected. I dusted you off, but you might have eaten some spiders. I'd gotten lucky again. That luck was bound to run out. I really needed to start being more careful from now on. Thanks. I owe you, I told him, fully meaning those words. No, we're even. His tone suddenly sounded oddly heavy. When they told me about Lucas, I just gave up. I thought that because of what I was, there wouldn't be any point trying to change things. You're human. And yet, you fight against supernatural creatures as if you're on equal terms with them. Sure, it hurts. You need to work harder than most. And there's no guarantee you'll live each time. I think seeing that made me realize I needed to use what I am and not run from it. His words should have sounded warm and comforting. Instead, a cold pit settled in my stomach. My throat became dry, as I refused to think about what he could be talking about. I could have pretended to be ignorant. If I asked him to make a door to my apartment, I would have avoided the truth at least for a short while longer. A sound came from downstairs, distracting us. Lucas is home. Come and say hello to him. August turned away, and I followed, my body moving on its own. I did want to see the boy we fought so hard to keep in our lives. I just feared what else August did while I was asleep. Lucas finished taking off his shoes when we reached the first landing on the stairs. When he saw me, his face flushed with excitement. He nearly knocked me over in a tight hug. I was still too weak to pick him up, so I leaned down to squeeze him back, apologizing for not seeing him for so long. Lucas instantly forgave me. He was a smart kid who saw how tired I looked. I promised him I would come again soon, but I needed to head home for the day. He understood, and with another hug, he headed off to the kitchen to make a snack. I straightened up with August at my back, ready to face the two people still standing in the doorway. Lucas's aunt and uncle smiled in our direction, their eyes appearing so lifeless. My eyes focused hard, until I saw small, flickering threads woven into their skulls, made of pure magic. If they were removed, they would die. Simple as that. August had accepted himself as a monster, and created a perfect family for his adopted son. All of their actions for the rest of their lives would only be done to make Lucas happy. My muscles tensed up, as August slipped his arms around my neck in an embrace, resting his head on my shoulder. Don't worry, I won't use the threads on you, because you'll never upset Lucas, right? He said in a low whisper. Carefully, I nodded, feeling sweat start at the back of my neck. There was nothing I could do to help the two people nearby. I could only hope August was reasonable and forgiving when it came to his son. Within the next few minutes, I got back home. The weight of everything that happened finally hit me when I closed the door. Slumping against it, I sat on the floor, unable to process my thoughts. Sure, those two weren't the best people to raise Lucas, but what August did was inhuman. And that was the point. He never claimed to be anything aside from a monster who loved a human child. I flexed the hand he'd given me, unsure of my feelings. It felt as if I was slowly getting further away from the person I thought I was. The person my mother wanted me to be. The person who Ito first saw. The pain in my bad leg flared up. It hadn't been healed by the spell August used. I needed to get that looked at soon. I slowly got up to try to sleep, hoping to avoid the countless questions I didn't have the answers for.
Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/JordanGroupHorror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow, and see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.